The small apartment, the handwritten room for rent sign taped to the door. Ethan, single dad, barely making ends meet. A young girl approached, Anna, 20 years old, dressed simply, asking to rent the room. Ethan nodded. The first night, taking out the trash, Ethan spotted Anna's silver bracelet glinting with the Voss Holdings logo, the billion-dollar corporation that had fired him. His heart pounded, but the real shock came next. Anna opened his old laptop and hid a red USB drive inside. On the USB, a label read, Project Raven Lake, do not disclose. Ethan went silent. She wasn't just a billionaire's daughter. She was carrying secrets that could bury an entire empire. Ethan Cole lived paycheck to paycheck in a world that had forgotten he existed. At 37, he was the guy who fixed broken things during the day and delivered packages at night. Single dad to 8-year-old Mia, ever since his wife Hannah died of heart complications 2 years ago. The medical bills had drained their savings. The funeral costs had drained everything else. The room for rent sign was his last resort. $200 a month would cover Mia's school supplies and maybe a few decent meals. Anna showed up on a Tuesday afternoon, looking nothing like the college students who usually answered his ads. No designer clothes, no attitude, no parents calling to inspect the accommodations. Just a quiet 20-year-old with earnest eyes and cash in hand. I'm studying art, she said simply. I need somewhere peaceful to work. Mia took to Anna immediately. Within a week, they were folding paper cranes together at the kitchen table while Ethan worked his second shift. Anna taught Mia new origami patterns, helped with homework, and never complained about the thin walls or the heater that only worked when you kicked it twice. She was perfect, too perfect. That's when Ethan started noticing things. The silver bracelet she always wore caught the light wrong sometimes, revealing an engraved logo that made his blood run cold. Voss Holdings, the corporate giant that had restructured him out of his warehouse supervisor job 18 months ago. No severance, no explanation, just a form letter thanking him for his service. But Anna couldn't be connected to them. Could she? The neighbors started talking first. Mrs. Chen from 2B made pointed comments about young girls these days and inappropriate living arrangements. Dave from his delivery job was less subtle. Dude, you got a college girl living with you? What's your daughter gonna think? The whispers followed him to the grocery store, the gas station, Mia's parent-teacher conferences, single dad renting to a young woman. The math looked wrong to everyone who cared to judge. Ethan ignored them. Anna paid rent on time, kept her space clean, and made Mia laugh in ways she hadn't since Hannah died. That should have been enough, but the silver bracelet bothered him, and the way she sometimes stared at her phone with an expression he couldn't read. And the fact that she'd specifically asked to use his old laptop instead of buying her own. Mine crashed, she'd explained. College budget, you know? Except nothing else about Anna suggested money problems. Her clothes were simple but well-made. Her art supplies were professional quality. And when Mia accidentally spilled juice on Anna's backpack, the leather absorbed it without staining, the kind of leather that cost more than Ethan made in a month. One evening, while taking out the trash, he'd glimpsed her through the kitchen window. She was sitting at his laptop but not browsing or typing. She was inserting something into the USB port, something small and red. When she saw him coming back inside, she closed the laptop quickly and smiled the same warm smile she always gave him. Making tea, she said, gesturing to the kettle. Want some? But Ethan had seen enough. The red USB drive, the way she'd hidden it, the logo on her bracelet that connected her to the company that had destroyed his stable life. His 8-year-old daughter was upstairs, trusting and innocent, folding paper cranes with a girl who might be lying about everything. That night, after Mia was asleep and Anna was in her room, Ethan made a decision that would change all their lives. He was going to find out who Anna really was. Are you watching from somewhere? If you discovered your tenant wore the logo of the company that ruined your life, what would you do? Comment your thoughts and subscribe to see what happens next. For 3 weeks, Anna became part of their small family in ways that felt dangerously real. She helped Mia with art projects, taught her advanced origami techniques, and somehow made their cramped apartment feel less like a place where dreams went to die. When Ethan worked late shifts, Anna made sure Mia had dinner and finished her homework. When Mia had nightmares about her mother, Anna sat with her until she fell back asleep. It was everything Ethan had hoped for when he'd posted that rental ad. A responsible tenant who genuinely cared about his daughter. So why did he feel like he was living with a ghost? The signs were small but persistent. Anna paid her rent in crisp hundreds, always exact change. She never ordered takeout, but somehow the refrigerator stayed stocked with expensive groceries. And that silver bracelet, she never took it off, even when washing dishes or helping Mia with messy art projects. The bracelet that bore the logo of Voss Holdings. Ethan had worked for their warehouse division for 6 years. Steady pay, decent benefits, the kind of job that let him plan for Mia's future. Then came the restructuring. 37 employees let go in a single day. No warning, no alternatives, just security guards walking them out with cardboard boxes full of personal items. Hannah had been sick by then. The insurance coverage ended with his job. The medical bills that followed destroyed everything they'd built together. But Anna couldn't know any of that. Could she? The doubt was eating him alive, especially when he watched her with Mia. His daughter's laughter had returned after months of grief-stricken silence. Anna had given them both something precious, hope that their little broken family might heal. The first real crack came on a Saturday morning at Peterson's Market. Ethan was counting coupons at checkout, calculating whether he could afford the name-brand cereal Mia had asked for when his card was declined. Again. "I'm sorry," he told the cashier, his face burning with familiar shame. "Can you remove the—" "I've got it," Anna said quietly, appearing beside him with a platinum credit card. The cashier's entire demeanor changed. The same woman who'd been tapping her fingers impatiently while Ethan sorted through crumpled bills suddenly became deferential, almost servile. "Of course, miss. Right away." Anna's card went through without question. $237, paid with the casual ease of someone for whom money was never a real concern. The other customers in line stared. Ethan felt their judgment like a physical weight. The single dad who couldn't afford groceries, saved by his young female tenant's platinum card. Walking home in silence, carrying bags that Anna had paid for, Ethan finally asked the question that had been building for weeks. "Who are you really?" Anna stopped walking. For a long moment she stared at the sidewalk, her fingers unconsciously touching that silver bracelet. "I'm exactly who I said I am," she whispered. "I'm just not exactly who you think I am." That evening, after Mia was asleep, Anna knocked on Ethan's bedroom door. "Can we talk?" She sat on the edge of his bed, looking younger than her 20 years, and told him the truth that shattered his world all over again. "My name is Anna Voss. My father owns Voss Holdings." The air left Ethan's lungs. "Your father? I know what his company did to you. I know about the layoffs, the timing, everything." Tears started streaming down her face. "I found your name in the employment records. Hannah Cole, listed as your emergency contact, and then I found her death certificate." Ethan's hands clenched into fists. "You investigated me?" "I investigated my father's company. You were just collateral damage I discovered along the way." The room spun. This girl, this young woman his daughter had come to love, was the child of the man who destroyed their lives, the billionaire whose corporate decisions had taken away Ethan's job, his insurance, his ability to save his wife. "Why?" His voice was barely audible. "Why are you here?" Anna reached for the old laptop on his dresser, the one she'd been using for weeks, with shaking hands. She opened it and pulled out the red USB drive he'd seen her hide. "Because of this." The drive was labeled in neat handwriting. "Project Raven Lake, do not disclose." "What is it?" "Proof," she said simply. "Proof that Raven Lake wasn't just corporate downsizing. It was deliberate contamination of the water supply to drive down property values for a real estate acquisition." 17 people died from the contaminated water. The layoffs were just cover to eliminate witnesses who might have talked. Ethan's world tilted. 17 people? Anna nodded, her face pale, including Hannah Cole. The heart complications she died from? They were caused by prolonged exposure to industrial chemicals that my father's company dumped into the municipal water system. The USB drive sat between them like a loaded gun. Hannah didn't just die because I lost my job, Ethan said slowly. She died because your father poisoned her. Yes. Outside, a black SUV had been parked across the street for the past hour. Anna had noticed it first, her body tensing in a way that spoke of long-practiced fear. They know I have it, she whispered. They know I'm here. And now they know about you and Mia. As if summoned by her words, the SUV's doors opened. 3 men in expensive suits stepped out, their movements coordinated and purposeful. They were coming for Anna, and they weren't planning to leave witnesses. The knock came at exactly 9:47 p.m. Not the polite tap of neighbors or delivery drivers. This was the sound of authority that expected immediate compliance. Ethan looked at Anna, whose face had gone completely white. The USB drive was still in her trembling hands. Mr. Cole, a voice called through the door. We'd like to speak with you about your tenant. Ethan's protective instincts kicked in. Whatever Anna had done, whatever secrets she carried, Mia was upstairs sleeping. His daughter's safety came first. Just a minute, he called back, then whispered urgently to Anna, hide that drive. Now. Anna shoved the USB back into his laptop and snapped it closed. Ethan, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to bring this to your home. Too late for apologies. He opened the door to find 3 men in perfectly tailored suits, the kind of suits that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Behind them, neighbors were peeking through curtains and cracking doors, drawn by the expensive cars and obvious drama. The man in the center was older, with silver hair and the kind of presence that commanded boardrooms. His eyes swept past Ethan dismissively before settling on Anna, who had appeared in the hallway. Anna, it's time to come home. I am home, she said quietly. The man's laugh was cold. This is what you call home? He gestured around Ethan's modest apartment with obvious disgust. A cramped rental with a... His eyes found Ethan again. Maintenance worker. One of the younger men smirked. Sir, maybe we should explain to Mr. Cole exactly who he's been harboring. But Anna stepped forward, her chin raised with surprising defiance. No, I'll explain. She looked directly at the growing crowd of neighbors, her voice carrying clearly in the night air. My name is Anna Voss. My father is Richard Voss, CEO of Voss Holdings. And I stole classified documents proving that his company murdered 17 innocent people. The statement hit like a physical blow. Mrs. Chen gasped audibly. Dave from the delivery service whistled low. Richard Voss's composure cracked for just a moment. Anna, you don't know what you're... Hannah Cole, Anna continued, her voice growing stronger. Maria Santos, David Kim, James Patterson. 17 names on a list of people who died from contaminated water that your company deliberately dumped to drive down property values. Ethan felt the world spinning around him. Not only had Anna confirmed that Hannah's death was murder, she was announcing it to the entire neighborhood. You have no proof of these allegations, Richard said smoothly, but his eyes were scanning the apartment, looking for something specific. Actually, I do. That's when Ethan realized what Anna was doing. She wasn't just confronting her father. She was creating witnesses. Every neighbor who'd come out to gawk at the expensive cars was now listening to a confession of corporate murder, and some of them were recording on their phones. Richard noticed the cameras too. His mask of controlled authority began to slip. Everyone needs to go back inside, one of his security men said loudly. This is a private family matter. Is it? Mrs. Chen called out. Because she just said you people killed 17 folks. That ain't private. Dave stepped forward, his delivery company uniform making him look official despite his youth. Sir, if what she's saying is true, we got a right to know. Some of us drink that same water. The crowd was growing. Other apartments were emptying as word spread through the building. Anna Voss, Billionaire's daughter, living in their building, accusing her father of mass murder. Richard's control was evaporating by the second. Anna, get in the car. Now. No. You're 20 years old. You're my daughter. You'll do as I say. I'm 20 years old, Anna repeated, stepping closer to Ethan, which means I'm an adult who can choose where to live. And I choose here. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, the handwritten rental receipt Ethan had given her on her first day. This is my legal residence. This is my rental agreement. And this man, she gestured to Ethan, has been more of a father to me in 3 weeks than you've been in 20 years. The crowd murmured approval. Someone started clapping. Richard's face flushed with rage and humiliation. You think this poverty-stricken nobody can protect you from me? This nobody, Ethan said quietly, speaking for the first time, knows exactly who you are, Richard Voss. He pulled his phone from his pocket, held it up so everyone could see the screen. I've been recording this entire conversation, every threat, every admission, every word. The blood drained from Richard's face. And so has she. Ethan nodded toward Mrs. Chen, who was holding her tablet high, the red recording light clearly visible. And him. Dave waved his phone. And me. Another neighbor stepped forward. Within seconds, a dozen phones were visible in the crowd, all recording, all capturing Richard Voss's meltdown in real time. You can't use any of this, Richard sputtered. Attorney-client privilege, family privacy laws. Don't apply to confessions of murder, Anna said calmly, especially not when they're made in public. From upstairs, a small voice called down, Daddy? What's happening? Mia appeared at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, holding one of the paper cranes Anna had taught her to fold. The sight of the 8-year-old girl seemed to break something in Richard Voss. Here was innocence. The kind of childhood Anna had never been allowed to have. The kind of family he'd destroyed with his corporate greed. Please, Anna whispered, her voice cracking. Just let me stay. Let me do the right thing for once. Richard looked around at the cameras, the witnesses, the evidence of his empire crumbling in real time. This isn't over, he said finally. Yes, it is, Anna replied. Because tomorrow morning I'm walking into the FBI field office with everything I have. And tonight, everyone here heard you try to stop me. As Richard and his men retreated to their expensive cars, Anna collapsed against Ethan's shoulder, finally allowing herself to cry. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry I brought this to your family. Ethan looked at Mia, still clutching her paper crane, still trusting him to keep her safe. You didn't bring this to my family, he said quietly. You became part of my family. And family protects each other. The cameras were still recording. The truth was finally free. By morning, the world had changed. Billionaire's daughter exposes father's murder cover-up. While Living with Single Dad became the most watched story across every platform. The video of Richard Voss's meltdown, captured from 12 different angles by Ethan's neighbors, went viral within hours. The footage was devastating. A corporate titan reduced to threats and stammering denials, while his own daughter stood up to him in a cramped apartment hallway. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. Wealth and power crumbling against simple human decency. Ethan's phone rang nonstop. CNN, NBC, local stations, podcasters, documentary filmmakers. Everyone wanted the ordinary hero who protected a whistleblower. He declined every interview. Daddy, Anderson Cooper called again, Mia announced over breakfast, carefully folding a new paper crane from the morning newspaper. He wants to fly us to New York. What did you tell them? That we don't need to be famous. We just need Anna to be safe. Smart kid. Too smart for 8 years old. The real satisfaction came from watching the investigation unfold in real time. The FBI arrived at Ethan's apartment before noon, not to arrest anyone, but to formally accept Anna's evidence. The USB drive that had been hidden in his old laptop contained 3 years of internal communications, financial records, and engineering reports proving that Project Raven Lake was intentional environmental terrorism disguised as cost-cutting measures. Agent Sarah Martinez, the lead investigator, explained it to them in simple terms. Miss Voss, what you've provided is the most comprehensive corporate murder case file we've seen in 20 years. Voss Holdings stock crashed within hours of the news breaking. Trading was suspended by 2 p.m. By evening, the company's board of directors had called an emergency meeting to discuss leadership transitions. Richard Voss was arrested at his mansion at 6 a.m. the following day, led away in handcuffs while news helicopters circled overhead. The man who'd once commanded boardrooms worth billions was now doing the perp walk in his bathrobe. The charges were extensive: 17 counts of negligent homicide, conspiracy to commit environmental crimes, obstruction of justice, witness intimidation, and racketeering. Each count carried a potential life sentence. But the sweetest revenge was quieter, more personal. The families of the 17 victims, including Ethan and Mia, were granted first priority in the class action lawsuit that followed. The settlement numbers being discussed started with 10 figures. Ethan wouldn't have to work double shifts anymore. Mia could go to the best schools, get the best health care, have the opportunities he'd never been able to provide. All because a billionaire's daughter had chosen to live in their tiny apartment and fight for what was right. The media circus was relentless, but Ethan's neighbors had become an unexpected shield. Mrs. Chen appointed herself as media liaison, which meant she stood guard in the lobby and told reporters exactly what she thought of them, bothering good people who just did right. Dave organized the other delivery drivers into an informal security network, making sure Anna could come and go without being harassed by cameras. The entire building had rallied around their unlikely family. Anna, meanwhile, was dealing with her own transformation. Disowned by her father, cut off from the family fortune, she was learning what it meant to live without unlimited money for the first time in her life. "I've never had to budget for groceries before," she confessed to Ethan one evening, staring at a calculator and a handful of coupons. "It's not about the money," he told her gently. "It's about knowing what things actually cost." She was working part-time at a local art supply store, saving money for community college, learning to live like the rest of the world. The silver bracelet with the Voss Holdings logo had disappeared, replaced by a simple chain Mia had made from origami paper. The investigation revealed layers of corruption that went far beyond Project Raven Lake. Richard Voss had been running a criminal enterprise disguised as a legitimate business for over a decade. Environmental crimes, worker safety violations, tax evasion, bribery, the list seemed endless. But the case that brought him down was the simplest one: 17 names on a list of people who died from poisoned water. 17 families who'd lost everything while Richard Voss added zeros to his bank account. Hannah Cole's name was at the top of that list, and her death had finally been avenged by the daughter of the man who killed her. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. 3 months after that first knock on the door, Anna sat in federal court as the prosecution's key witness. She'd traded her simple art student clothes for a conservative business suit, but her hands still shook as she held the microphone. "My father taught me that power means never having to face consequences," she said clearly. "But living with Ethan and Mia taught me that real power comes from doing what's right, even when it costs you everything." Richard Voss, sitting at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, refused to look at his daughter. The jury convicted him on all charges: life in prison without the possibility of parole. As they left the courthouse, reporters shouted questions about justice and redemption and whether Anna regretted her choices. She stopped at the bottom of the courthouse steps, took Mia's hand, and gave the only statement she would make during the entire ordeal. "I found my real family in a $200 a month room. That's worth more than all my father's billions." Walking home together, Ethan, Anna, and Mia, they looked like what they'd become: a family that had chosen each other against impossible odds. Some secrets were worth losing everything to reveal, and some families were worth everything to protect. 1 year later, the City Hall hosted a press conference announcing the Richard Voss Memorial Clean Water Initiative, a program funding water safety monitoring in low-income communities. The irony of naming an environmental protection program after the man who'd poisoned 17 people wasn't lost on anyone. Sometimes justice came with a bitter sense of humor. Anna stood at the podium beside the mayor, no longer the frightened girl who'd hidden USB drives in old laptops. She wore a simple blue dress and the paper chain bracelet Mia had made her, now weathered from a year of daily wear. When it came time for remarks, Anna didn't give a speech about corporate accountability or environmental justice, though she could have. The settlement money had made her wealthy in her own right, but it had also taught her what wealth really meant. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out 3 simple objects. First, the small wooden key Mia had carved for her in art class, the one that said home in a child's careful lettering. Anna placed it gently on the podium microphone. Second, the original handwritten rental receipt Ethan had given her that first day. Now framed and worn from handling, she set it beside the key. Finally, a paper crane folded from the front page of the newspaper, announcing her father's conviction. She placed it on top of the receipt, its wings spread wide. The symbolism was unmistakable to everyone who'd followed their story. The key that had opened the right door, the receipt that had protected her choice to stay, and the crane that represented hope rising from the ashes of corruption. A photographer captured the moment, and the image spread across social media with a simple caption, "The room she rented saved lives." After the ceremony, the 3 of them walked home to the same apartment where it had all started. The room for rent sign was long gone, replaced by a small plaque that read, "Cole Voss Family." "Are we really keeping my last name?" Anna asked, the same question she'd posed a dozen times since the adoption papers were filed. "Family isn't about names," Ethan said, unlocking the door with Mia's wooden key. "It's about choosing to stay when staying gets hard." Mia ran ahead to their kitchen table, where dozens of paper cranes hung from the ceiling, each one folded during their most difficult days, each one a promise that tomorrow could be better. Sometimes the most expensive room wasn't in a mansion. Sometimes it was the $200 space where someone finally learned what home really meant. Sometimes the most valuable inheritance wasn't money or power. It was the courage to choose family over fortune, truth over comfort, and love over everything else. Which moment moved you most? When Anna placed the wooden key on the microphone, or when the paper crane landed on the rental receipt? Comment below and subscribe for more stories. Hero Dad stories about families who choose each other.